politics over Yogi Adityanath's 80% versus 20% comment has already peaked. Because what is very clear is Yogi Adityanath has, as he said at a public gathering, claimed that 80% were with him and 20% were with the terrorists. This is his comment that has resulted in much controversy. Today, Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi tweeted condemning the remarks, saying the focus should be on unemployment, not religious polarization. She claimed it is an attempt to divert from the real issues. But the big question is, what really is Yogi Adityanath's strategy in this election, and how does this 80-20 remark square up with the Election Commission? It's our top story tonight.
ये चुनाव 80 बनाम 20 का होगा। 80% समर्थन एक तरफ होगा, 20% दूसरी तरफ होगा।
This controversial statement by Yogi Adityanath has kept the political cauldron boiling in Uttar Pradesh since Saturday when he first made the comment. The UP Chief Minister's political rivals claim the reference is clear. They allege Yogi Adityanath is pitching the elections as Hindu versus Muslims. Yogi Adityanath is unfazed by the criticism. He repeated his claim at the Aaj Tak election panchayat.
80% और 20%।
हाँ, ये तो 80 बनाम 20 तो है ही। ये चुनाव 80 बनाम 20 जाएगा।
तो ये 20% कौन है?
ये 20% वे लोग हैं जो राम जन्मभूमि का विरोध करते हैं, काशी विश्वनाथ धाम का विरोध करते हैं, मथुरा वृंदावन के भव्य स्वरूप का विरोध करते हैं। ये 20% वे लोग हैं जो जिनकी पीड़ा माफियाओं के साथ में है, जिनकी पीड़ा पेशेवर अपराधियों के साथ में है, जिनकी संवेदना पेशेवर आतंकवादियों के साथ में है, ये वही लोग हैं।
Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav ripped into Yogi Adityanath's statement from the same stage where the UP CM defended his remark.
वो 80% झूठ बोलते हैं, 20% सच बोलते हैं। ये नहीं पता लगा आपको? वो जो 80 और 20 बता रहे हैं, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी कह रही है कि हम 80% झूठ बोलते हैं, केवल 20% सच होता है हमारा। इस बार जनता समझ गई है, इसीलिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग कूटे जा रहे हैं। 80% लोग इनसे नाराज हैं, मैं कहता हूं 100% लोग नाराज हैं इनसे।
The Congress too has waded into the controversy. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra on Tuesday called Yogi Adityanath's statement an attempt to divert attention from the issues of the youth. She claimed 68% of people under BJP rule don't have any work and urged the youth to make employment and education the election issues. UP CM Yogi Adityanath's 80% versus 20% has once again put the focus on Hindutva. But is it a violation of the Election Commission's Model Code of Conduct? The jury is out on that. Bureau Report, India Today.
Has the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister violated the Model Code of Conduct? That's the first question I'm posing. Joining me now is the former Chief Election Commissioner, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi. Dr. Qureshi, 80-20. This election is 80-20. Roughly what Yogi Adityanath is saying is that his comment mirrors the religious divide in terms of population composition in UP. 80% Hindus, Muslims 20%. He does not specifically name them. Do you believe that this constitutes a violation of the Model Code of Conduct, that Yogi Adityanath is effectively stirring a communal divide?
Yeah, there is no doubt that 80-20 is a clear reference to Hindus and Muslims. And when he said that he knows it, the people who clapped from his followers and audience, they know it. And he thinks he's too clever, that others are stupid and they will not understand, because he has not used the word Muslim. It will escape judicial notice, it will escape Election Commission's notice. I think he's mistaken. He says absolutely. And going by his past utterances, there is no doubt about it that this is a communal statement which attracts the Model Code and all the clauses and sections of IPC.
The fact, Dr. Qureshi, that he specifically does not refer to the community. He says 80-20. This kind of dog whistle politics, we've seen it previously by when he has used terms like Abba Jan. I want to understand, can this fall, can the election commission suo moto take action on this, or does it have to wait for a complaint before it takes action?
Well, actually, election commission can come in suo moto because only a stupid man will not understand the reference. He knows what he meant. He knows surely what he meant, and his audience knows what he meant. And just because he has not used the word Muslim, it doesn't mean that he can escape. And election commission is no fools. They will also understand, and they can come in if they want to.
If they want to, that's the big question. If they want to, I recall in 2009, when you were Chief Election Commission, you had acted against Varun Gandhi. He had made a speech which at the time was seen as inflammatory in Pilibhit, and you had acted against him virtually without waiting for any complaint. The question is, does the Election Commission have the spine to act against, in suo moto, against the UP Chief Minister? I want to read out for our audiences, sir, what the poll of the Representation of People's Act General Conduct says. No party or candidate shall include in any activity which may aggravate existing differences or create mutual hatred, cause tension between different castes and communities, religious or linguistic. So I'm asking you again, do you believe that the Election Commission has the spine to take on the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh right at the start of this election campaign?
Well, institutionally, Election Commission has the spine. Institutionally, it has the teeth. But then it also depends on the individuals manning it. So I hope they will use the spine provided by the institution. And they will step in because the whole world is watching. Whatever good thing they do and whatever omissions they make, everybody is watching, and they must be under pressure.
Sir, but the worry is, and we've seen this over the years, that when it comes to inflammatory remarks, these kind of dog whistle politics, signaling out the clothes that a particular community is wearing, suggesting that there is a Talibani mindset, as well as, let's say, there are Islamist leaders who make appeals on the grounds of religion to their supporters. The EC is slow to act. Why does the EC not act more swiftly against hate speech, whether it's Hindus or Muslims? In this case, it's the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Tomorrow, it could be someone else. Why does the EC not act swiftly against hate speech?
Yes, EC is on test for sure. And if they do not act on this case, things will only aggravate. The election, the process has just begun, and everybody is watching. They are the guys who have committed the offense. They are watching. They are testing their ground, and if election commission doesn't act, they will be emboldened, as we have seen in the past. So I think election should come down heavily on this, because this has to stop. Otherwise, it will be aggravated.
So if you were election commissioner today, you would have thrown the rule book at Yogi Adityanath?
Absolutely, yes, without doubt. And as you mentioned, the Varun Gandhi case,
you're unequivocal about that.
Yes, you
just like the Varun Gandhi case, in this case too.
We saw Varun Gandhi, the statement on CNN, IBN at 12:30 in the night. And I immediately called up the channel and asked for a CD, suo moto. And we saw the CD and we took action suo moto.
That's right. I remember I was the editor then at that time. You called me late after midnight and wanted a copy of the video. Well, that was a very different time, 2009. In 2021, will the Election Commission or 2022 Election Commission show the spine and at least throw the rule book at those who violated howsoever high and whichever party they belong to? Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, appreciate your joining me here at the top of the news today. I want to widen this because this is going to become an important issue at election time. Is hate speech going to become a critical issue? Should the Election Commission be taking notice of this kind of 80-20 politics? Are all parties fighting for a Hindu vote? When you raise 80-20 politics, where does that leave real issues, jobs, and other critical issues of our times? Some of the questions I want to raise. Pawan Khera, the Congress's spokesperson, is with us. Shazia Ilmi is the BJP spokesperson. Sharat Pradhan, senior journalist, has just written a biography of Yogi Adityanath. I appreciate all of you joining me here on the news today. I want to come to you, Shazia Ilmi. How do you see the 80-20 remark of Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath? When we asked him to explain it, he said he was 80 referred to those who supported Ram Janmabhoomi and development, 20% referred to those who supported terrorists, mafias and anti-national elements. But let's be very clear, he's referring to 80%, 20 in the context of the population ratio of Hindus and Muslims. How do you interpret it?
Well, that was your interpretation, and that was Mr. S.Y. Qureshi's interpretation. For the knowledge and full disclosure of everybody watching your program, I would like to bring to their notice a tweet by Mr. former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi, who wished that Prime Minister Modi gets infected with coronavirus. So, sincerely,
okay,
earnestly.
we will try and...
No, I have to do this. No. You have to allow me this. You know, as a in the capacity of former election commissioner, let me reveal to all of you that this is the same officer who actually wished, when the Brazilian president got swine flu and coronavirus, that he wished the Prime Minister Modi, our Prime Minister Modi, on 12th of March. So this is the biased former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi, who is known for his visceral hatred for the BJP regime. Rajdeep Sardesai fondly chose him and earnestly asked him these questions. But it was my duty to bring to your notice that this is where Mr. S.Y.
So you are questioning the credibility. You're saying that you're questioning the credibility of Dr. Qureshi. You're saying he's anti-Modi, anti-BJP. Okay, you answer what does your understanding of 80-20 mean? Please tell me your understanding of 80-20.
It was my duty to decimate, not just a question.
I'm glad that that's your duty, ma'am. My duty is to ask you the questions. My duty is to ask you questions.
As just a former Chief Election Commissioner, and the fact that he was chosen for this debate. Yeah, there were many former election commissioners, but why S.Y. Qureshi becomes such a favorite?
I will ask each and every one of them.
Is anybody's guess? Okay, now let me answer. So, Yogi Adityanath did not mention even once minority. That is only the conjecture used and interpreted by Mr. Sardesai and S.Y. Qureshi in a rather cozy bonhomie.
I see.
Okay.
So you tell me your interpretation, ma'am. Please tell me your interpretation. Don't beat around the bush.
Don't get defensive, my dear friend. My dear friend, my good friend, do not.
I don't get defensive.
This is my version.
I find it amusing. I find it amusing. That's all.
You will have to allow me to speak.
Please go ahead. Please give me your interpretation of 80-20.
I'm sorry I broke the camaraderie there, but also let me go further and say that Yogi Adityanath said that we are going ahead with positivity, and there are those who support terrorists, and there is a 20% who are against the temple construction and who support the terrorists. But we are going ahead with a track record of development. But of course, this would be omitted, and it would be 20% would be the obvious reference to Muslims. Let me remind Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai here again, and of course, the neutral, objective former Chief Election Commissioner who wishes Modi gets infected with COVID, that more has been done for Muslims in UP by this government, Yogi's government, and all governments, thanks to Prime Minister's Yojanas, in terms of Awas Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, and what have you, than any other government. The beneficiaries have been Muslims, disproportionate to the population everywhere else. And not just that, Yogi ji was also mentioning those who speak against, who speak for terrorists. And there has been a complete demolition of mafia, sand mafia, land mafia, builder mafia, irrespective of the fact that and there have been no communal riots. The rioting in which Muslims lost their lives was 135 per person since the last 70 years. And the rioting today, these are all India figures because I've done some number crunching, is only 13 in the last 7 years. This is all India figures. So many more Muslims died in this secular party's rule than otherwise. You know, if you pick up figures of registered communal
I just want to say,
so Yogi has been, Muslims have never been safer in UP. They've been safer than ever.
Muslims have never been safer. I am putting that on record. Muslims have never been safer than they have in Yogi's UP, is what Shazia Ilmi is saying. Ma'am,
yes.
Ma'am, there are others in this program. This is not a monopoly on this channel. Nobody gets a monopoly, neither you nor the other side. I just want to say that S.Y. Qureshi had, just a minute ma'am now, producer please switch off the audio. The S.Y. Qureshi had said, my extreme, and this is what he had said at that time, my extreme and sincere apology. I was trying to report this offensive and unacceptable tweet when perhaps I pressed a wrong button. This was his apology over the tweet that he had made at that time itself. Shazia Ilmi is claiming that he wanted the Prime Minister to get infected by COVID. He had said at that time itself that that was not the case and he had already responded. But I will leave Dr. Qureshi and Shazia Ilmi to respond to Shazia Ilmi separately. But Pawan Kheda, respond to what has been said by Shazia Ilmi. She says Muslims have never felt safer in Yogi's UP. Look at what Yogi has done for all. That Yogi hasn't practiced discriminatory politics, no appeasement politics, and that's why his comment should not be interpreted as communal. How do you respond, Pawan Kheda?
Why is it that before every election, Rajdeep, whether it's the Prime Minister, whether it's Adityanath ji, they resort to such comments? कपड़ों से पहचाने जाते हैं. Which so-called great man said this? Narendra Modi. Shamshan Kabristan. Which so-called self-appointed, self-acclaimed great man said this? Narendra Modi. Now this is the real face of the BJP. During Atalji's era, Rajdeep, at least there used to be a mask. Of course, that mask was see-through. You and I could see through the mask. Atalji would first say, "Maidan samtal karna padega," and then his foot soldiers would obediently go and demolish the mosque. Then Atalji would grieve and write a poetry out of grief. Now that was the mask. But the difference between those days and these days is that in the showcase there was a mask, in the go down there was a poison. Now with Narendra Modi, the showcase also has poison. Now Narendra Modi is trying to be an Atal Bihari Vajpayee, as if Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a great statesman. Narendra Modi does the same. मैं उसको दिल से माफ नहीं कर पाऊंगा, and then he goes and promotes Sadhvi Pragya. That's the real face. The masks are gone. Whenever BJP sees a defeat, they start dividing
you're saying
people.
The masks are gone,
they
but
don't
the
understand.
No, 1 minute. At the end of the day, according to Yogi Adityanath's government or Yogi Adityanath, please look at the proof is in the pudding. He claims that look at that on law and order specifically, look at the number of riots that took place when Samajwadi Party was in power. Contrast that with the number that have taken place in the last 5 years. I am offering security above all else, and those who don't want security are the ones who will vote against me. That's how he is choosing to interpret it. You can even look at a particular ad that has come out which shows people with torches. He says P-2017. Now those people are seeking pardon.
Let me respond. When the BJP is in opposition, somehow there is a coincidence, riots take place. When the BJP forms governments, they resort to a new strategy, which is slow burner communalism. Across the country, the kind of poison they are spreading through social media, through, unfortunately, some of our channels, the kind of debates these channels have, this is their strategy. जब opposition में हो, तो दंगे होंगे. जब सत्ता में हो, तो ये धीमी आंच का सांप्रदायिकता चलता रहेगा. तो धीमी आंच की सांप्रदायिकता is horrible. It's there. I would say this is a brand BJP, brand Modi, brand Amit Shah kind of politics. अडवाणी जी और अटल जी के वक्त दंगे होते थे. मोदी और शाह के वक्त धीमी आंच पे सांप्रदायिकता होती है और हो रही है. मेरे घर से बाहर निकलो दिखेगी. कुछ लोगों के घर के अंदर घुस गई है. ये हालत कर दी इन लोगों ने देश की. This is the real face. As I said, the masks.
Let me ask you, Sharad Pradhan, you've tracked the masks are off. Sharad Pradhan, you've tracked Yogi Adityanath. You've written about him extensively. Is your sense that he is someone, is what you see is what he gets, what you get? He doesn't hide behind his saffron robes. From day one, when he's come to power, whether it's closing down so-called illegal slaughterhouses, whether it is using NSA and UAPA, whether it is confiscating properties of anti-CAA protesters, Yogi Adityanath has used every opportunity to send out a message to the so-called 80% that under me you are safe and I will ensure that the so-called 20% are put in their place. Is that how Yogi Adityanath has always worked his politics?
Absolutely. Yogi Adityanath has done all this so blatantly. And from day one, actually, his rise in politics has been dependent solely on divide, communal divide. And after becoming chief minister, he's become, it's brazen, the manner in which he does. And if anybody cannot see that, this 80-20, if somebody cannot understand it, he has to be either a complete dimwit or has to be more loyal than the king, which in case of Shazia Ilmi it appears. Because Shazia Ilmi has forgotten that when she was with the Aam Aadmi Party, she was far more critical of the BJP than anybody today. And now because she has to be to prove herself. Please let me complete. I didn't interfere you, Shazia.
I was against the corruption of Congress party.
No, he did not interfere. I'll let you respond. I will let you respond, Shazia, to him. But can we avoid personal comments? Can we avoid personal comments? But go ahead, Sharad Pradhan. Shazia Ilmi, I will let you respond. But go ahead, Sharad Pradhan. Without personal comments, I am asking you about Yogi Adityanath.
Well, Yogi Adityanath.
I will allow you to respond when the time comes. Till then, producer, focus on Sharad Pradhan.
Now, when he talked about 80-20,
yes,
it was very, I mean, more than only a deaf and a dimwit will not understand this and not admit it. Because as a BJP spokesman, you have to be, you can't help it. It's your majburi to be picking him off in this manner. The point is that Yogi Adityanath, as everybody knows him right from the time he was a member of parliament in Gorakhpur, the kind of things he did, all kinds of the speeches that he gave, hate speeches, he thrives on hate speeches. There was a time, the only time when he was put behind bars in a case of attempt to murder, then that was the time, if you remember, in the parliament, he wept. Tears rolled down his eyes. That shows how timid he was. And he pleaded before the speaker, Somnath Chatterjee, that this is how he was being treated. He was doing great service to the nation. And this is how he has been treated. So and once he rode on to power, then he thought no end. I mean, he considers no end of himself. The kind of things he did, the way he changed names of cities, with even a remote Islamic connotations. There are hundreds of cities in this country which have Islamic names. So that doesn't mean you change everybody. And the whole idea behind it has always been to somehow send a message, to spread hatred, and to send a message to the 80% that I am with you and I am going to do this. And this is what he was trying. But let me tell you.
But maybe that is like it or not, he sees it as his USP. And maybe he is addressing his constituency. But Shazia Ilmi, wouldn't it be more honest of you to say, yes, just as an Asauddin Owaisi is accused of appealing to a Muslim vote bank, Yogi Adityanath is appealing to a Hindutva vote bank. Wouldn't that be much more honest? Rather than this sophistry saying 80-20 doesn't actually refer to Hindu-Muslim. Why not be a little bit more honest, ma'am? Why not be a little bit more honest? Yogi Adityanath is being honest. Why can't you be as honest?
Yeah, I heard you. We're just wasting footage, right? We're both from television, so we know a little something about that. So even a dimwit would know that entire Anna Hazare movement and Aam Aadmi Party was formed on the heels of UPA government and the corruption. And any moron on this who follows news or claims to be a journalist knows that the entire thing was about the corruption of UPA and based on that. So let me just rag this person's memory, Sharad Pradhan, who claims
you've clarified that. Why don't you, while you clarify that, I want you to hear what Yogi Adityanath also said on Abba Jan and Jinan. I want you to respond.
So
just listen.
Moron also knows that it was not against the BJP, it was UP which was in power.
Laughable. I can only laugh.
भाइयों बहनों, गन्ने की मिठास को कुछ लोगों ने कड़वाहट में बदल करके यहां पर दंगों की एक जो श्रृंखला खड़ी की थी, आज ये देश के अंदर एक नया द्वंद्व बना है कि ये देश गन्ने की मिठास को एक नई उड़ान देगा या जिन्ना के अनुयायियों से फिर दंगा करवाने की शरारत करवाएगा।
राशन मिल रहा होगा ना आप लोगों को? राशन मिल रहा है राशन। क्या ये राशन 2017 के पहले भी मिलता था? क्योंकि तब तो अब्बा जान कहने वाले राशन हजम कर जाते थे। तब कुशीनगर का राशन नेपाल पहुंच जाता था, बांग्लादेश पहुंच जाता था। और आज कोई इन गरीबों का राशन निकलेगा तो राशन तो नहीं निकल पाएगा, लेकिन जेल जरूर चला जाएगा।
Shazia Ilmi, I'll ask you one last time. Don't you think it's better to be honest and say, look, this is our politics? Yogi Adityanath is very clear. He is appealing to a particular constituency.
Don't you think it's true that you should be asking Sharad Pradhan, who obviously did very well during Samajwadi Party's time, and we know how materially and otherwise, why isn't he calling out on Samajwadi statement, Akhilesh's statement on Jinnah? And what is wrong with what Yogi ji said? I'm asking you also, Rajdeep, that why should Jinnah be called a freedom fighter? What was the need for Akhilesh to say that? And what is wrong? No,
Akhilesh Yadav's comment invoking Jinnah, Akhilesh Yadav's comment invoking Jinnah is condemnable. Is condemnable in its own place.
Should you be honest, Rajdeep, and say that, you know, what about the Ammi Jans? What about Congress party who speaks here, Pawan Khera, and this gentleman who calls himself a journalist, and we know what kind of journalism he did during Akhilesh's time. Everybody knows. Everybody knows all about his
Shazia Ilmi, I think instead of Shazia Ilmi,
tell you what all you've done.
Clearly Sharad Pradhan has got under your skin. Don't cast personal aspersions on anyone.
And I will question that again and again.
I see. Shazia Ilmi, unlike you, I will not make personal calls. Otherwise, you would, Shazia Ilmi, let us not go into your transition from AAP to BJP. But Pawan Khera, no. Please switch off both Sharad and Shazia Ilmi. It is an unfortunate aspect when people make personal character assassination in the manner that they are at the moment. Shazia Ilmi, you're a BJP leader. I asked you a question in your capacity as a BJP leader. You've answered everything but what I asked you. Pawan Khera, the question therefore, maybe since Samajwadi Party is not here, when Akhilesh Yadav invokes Jinnah, when leaders of the Samajwadi Party or indeed an Owaisi are accused of playing the politics of Muslim appeasement very directly, when you have an Azam Khan, would the Congress or Priyanka Gandhi comment about that as strongly as you do today when Yogi Adityanath refers to 80-20 politics?
Rajdeep, my leadership, my party and me myself, we are very clear about one fundamental principle. Communalism cannot be defeated by counter-communalism. Communalism can, will, shall be defeated by secularism, true commitment to secular values. So whether it's Advani ji talking about Jinnah or Akhilesh talking about Jinnah or Yogi talking about Jinnah, all that is rubbish. This is not how elections should be contested. This is not the narrative this country of 64% young people deserves. This country deserves the language of unemployment, employment, economy. This is the language which BJP just doesn't understand. भाई आप कितना ही कोशिश कर लीजिए डिवाइड करने की. People are united in their grief. They are united in their anger. They are united in the betrayal that this government at the center and the state has caused to them. They let them try. ये जाति में बांटेंगे, धर्म में बांटेंगे, लेकिन लोग एक हैं अपने गुस्से में, अपने दुख में और उस धोखे में जो उनके साथ किया जा रहा है.
No, but will you?
Let them try.
Is the Congress very clear is the Congress very clear? Any party appealing on the grounds of religion, whether it is Samajwadi Party or whether it is the BJP, both are equally condemnable, because it appears that for the Congress, the charge which is made is that you're only looking at Hindutva communalism. You're not looking at communalism which may emerge as a reaction to it or may have actually preceded it.
This is a charge which is mythical, not true, because as I said, I can't get clearer than this. The only way to counter communalism is through secularism, not through majority communalism or minority communalism. The country is sick of this narrative. Believe you me, country is getting absolutely done with this narrative. Congress party and in Uttar Pradesh, what Priyanka Gandhi has started is the narrative which Uttar Pradesh is desperate for, was desperate for. Thankfully, it's the Congress party which brought that narrative in, or mainstream that narrative.
Yes,
nobody talks about gender. Nobody talks
every
about
opinion
women.
poll
Look at the state of women.
No, you're
Whether
saying,
it's Hindu
but
women,
the
Muslim
truth
women,
is,
doesn't matter. Sorry, what do you
but
say?
the truth is, on the ground, at least that's what opinion polls are suggesting, the BJP remains the party number one. What does that then show, Sharad Pradhan?
We saw
that,
we
that
saw
the narrative which Pawan Kheda speaks of.
Their own ministers are leaving. Maybe they didn't see the opinion polls.
Okay.
Maybe Mr. Maurya did not see the opinion polls. Show it to him, even then he would have left.
Okay,
Well,
just Sharad
Rajdeep,
Pradhan, the sense one gets is that the Congress's
Maybe Rahul
narrative,
Gandhi saw the opinion polls and came
the
back to
Congress's
India.
narrative is stuck in this car. Just a minute, ma'am. Producer, one by one. Sharad Pradhan, the fact is we can question the 80-20 narrative for being communal, violative of the model code of conduct, but does it have a large audience out there? And that's the worry, that hate sells in a manner that the politics which may actually try to bridge the communities no longer does. That's what's changed in UP over the last 30 years. Caste politics, community politics has left the state fractured.
Rajdeep, the opinion polls are on the basis of what they had, the data that was gathered until a few days back. Things are changing in Uttar Pradesh at a very rapid pace. And what has happened today, this Swami Prasad Maurya, one of the key ministers in the Yogi government and OBC leader, prominent OBC leader, has quit the party and joined Samajwadi Party. And this has given, this is taking it back to, if you remember, the Mandal and Kamandal days in the late 80s and early 90s, when Mulayam had stitched this kind of a coalition. Akhilesh seems to be doing an action replay of what his father succeeded by diminishing the Kamandal card, which is the BJP was riding at the, in the name of the Ayodhya movement. And here was Mulayam Singh Yadav building a coalition of smaller caste-based OBC parties, and he became a leader, which is exactly what Akhilesh has succeeded in doing. He came in pretty late in the day. He was very laid back in the beginning, but ever since he came to ground zero, he has been drawing the kind of crowds that he started drawing, really rattled the BJP. And today, what has happened has really left Yogi Adityanath completely stumped. I'm told he's being taken to task by Delhi because he's been taken by surprise. He had no clue. And Swami Prasad Maurya's move is not
let me leave it there. I want to say just a minute, I want to say one thing today. I do this program under the branding News Without Noise. And I know I let down my viewers when I allow the kind of noise and the personal attacks and character assassination that took place today. I was hoping that politics can actually be talked in a manner without these personal accusations, but there are certain subjects, and certainly this 80-20 debate is polarizing. Maybe that's what some of our politicians want. Maybe when you failed on other issues that really matter, issues of public health, issues of education, issues of employment, then you turn to coarse religious identity or indeed caste-based politics that eventually ends up treating people as vote banks and dividing people by preying on their fears and prejudices. As a proud Indian citizen, I believe this great country deserves better from our netas. We need to build bridges, not become dividers in chief. And I leave it to my netas and the likes of Shazia Ilmi, Pawan Kheda, Samajwadi Party and others to think, what kind of India do you want as we enter the 75th year of our independence. I certainly want a better India, 100% India, not an 80-20% India. 80-20% is for our politicians. 100% India, my friends, is for you and I as Indians, where we as citizens treat the Constitution as our only holy book, a book that treats every citizen as equal and appeal to them on real issues that should matter to them, not issues that divide us as Indians. I want you to think about it. At this moment, I'm going to take a break.